creative spirits. Welcome to another episode of Your Creative and Magical Life. I'm your host, Cecily Saylor, and I'm so glad you're here. We have another sweet episode with Ariana Smith, and we'll be having a really sweet conversation about Alaska and the wilderness and reading tarot for more than one person, doing the group thing, and probably talk a little bit about transitions of some kind as we start to transition seasons, but as we are always transitioning, it feels like. So I hope this supports you and enriches your creative and magical life. I'm really happy to have Ariana back on the show. I think Ariana is going to be visiting about monthly to just be a conversation partner. I'm an only child. I like to do things by myself, but it's nice to just have someone to flow with and chat with and nerd out without necessarily having it be an interview. So Ariana and I were kind of jiving, and she's back for more. Hello, Ariana. Welcome, welcome.
I love this contrast. Hello, everyone. I'm actually a twin and a double Gemini. Yeah. So we'll get more into that when we talk about Alaska. But when you say you're like an only child, I was like, I don't even know what that's like. I mean, I've shared a womb since I existed.
Well, and I cannot imagine twins. My partner is a fraternal twin. Yeah, twins are just like unicorns. It's amazing. You're a twin from Alaska, so you're extra unicorn.
Oh, so I have a fraternal twin sister, and she actually has identical twin girls. So there's a lot of matching outfits. It's just all I'm going
Yeah.
to say about that.
Matching outfit. Your sister probably isn't in Alaska anymore.
She is. Yep.
Okay.
Everyone's up there. Yeah,
Okay.
everyone's up there.
Well, I knew you went to Alaska. It was in your wonderful newsletter. And then I realized you were from Alaska. And Alaska, to me, is like this exotic wilderness land that I've been wanting to visit for decades. And
Mm.
I'm like, wow, there's someone who's like, it's just their home and a place that they go. And as some of my listeners know, if you've heard me, I'm like a paranormal freak. And there's lots of like good paranormal things in Alaska. So that also got me excited. But would you tell us a little bit about where you're from
Yeah.
and what it's like?
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Alaska on a homestead outside Wasilla in the Meadow Lakes area, if people know. And that homestead was built by my maternal grandpa and great grandma. And when my mom was raising that homestead, they eventually got running water. And then by the time I was raised in that, we had electricity, we had running water. So it was the homestead, but not in the way it was back in the 50s. So I have a really lovely lineage of both my grandparents on both sides settling in Alaska and just being like, this is where we want to be. My parents actually met at Wasilla High School. They were high school sweethearts. And then I went to that high school. So I was raised around a lot of extended family. And I identify as highly sensitive. I don't know if you do as well. And really being raised in Alaska as a highly sensitive child was so amazing. I just got to play in the woods. Like I just had to stay within earshot and just watch out for moose. I just got to be in nature and like play in my head and like swim in the lake, pretend I was a mermaid. It just was so lovely in that respect. Along the lines of the only child piece, I was raised by incredibly independent women, like very hyper independent. And so I really grew up watching the women in my family just take care of shit and get it done. And my dad worked up on the North Slope, which is the oil rig up on the very tippy top of Alaska. And so he would be gone 2 weeks at a time and home 2 weeks at a time. And so when he was gone, There was a blizzard, the power went out. My mom lighting candles, she's filling the bathtub with water, she's getting out the snowplow. And if we don't have power, we're navigating that. So I grew up not as an only child, but just with that energy of like, I can do this. And I think that really contributed to me eventually leaving the state, moving out of state, starting my own business, enjoying the risk of that, and still like loving being an entrepreneur.
Amazing. I was in this environment where it was like all concrete, strip malls, giant highways, traffic. And by the time I was finishing high school, I was like, I got to get the fuck out of here. It just didn't nourish me. And I'm in Austin now, and I've been in Austin a long time, and it's not that far from Houston, but there's the river running through the city. There's a green belt and hills, and there's just more green. There's a spring in town, we can go swim in. So that's beautiful that you had that experience. So you have to look out for moose more than bear.
It depends where you're at. It depends. I mean, I'm definitely not going to fuck with bears, but it was much more likely down where I was to see a moose. And what you have to watch out for is if she's got some babies. You do not want to get in between mama moose and her babies. And I just think they're the coolest creatures, like just so big and peaceful, and also not the smartest. I have funny memories of driving along the highway and like the moose would think it was hidden because it couldn't see you. It'd be behind a brush with its big, huge rump sticking out. And it's like, we can see you. This is obvious. But I hear you on needing an environment that was sensory friendly for you. That's something whenever I go back to Alaska, especially I stay with my parents, it's so quiet. It's so quiet. I live in Denver now. I live outside Denver, and it's just so quiet. And I don't think folks realize, you and I did, but I don't think folks realize just the wear on your nervous system when you're around that all the time, highly sensitive or not.
Yes, yes. That's very real. And looking back on it, I think my experience with alcohol was a way to tone things down, and then not drinking anymore and getting older and just letting myself be more of who I am. It's like the sensitivities are even greater.
Something that stood out to me when I first started understanding and studying high sensitivity was this statement. I don't remember who said it, but they said an HSP has saved a life at least once with their high sensitivity because there's something they noticed that people didn't. And here's my story. I was in an apartment. I was living in an apartment on the second floor, and I kept hearing this beeping above us. My partner at the time didn't hear it. I was like, no, there is a beeping happening up there. And I called the office, and the people above us had left their oven on and had left the house and could have burned down the place. But I heard it. Our sensitivity helps us notice things that other people don't, and also makes us very creative, very attuned to tarot. But I want to hear, okay, speaking of sensitive, I am not as into the paranormal history of Alaska as you are. So I think you're going to I think you're going to teach me something about Alaska.
Well, don't count on it. But two things I want to say real quick is that strangely, perhaps magically, before we got on to record this episode, I went to the post office to mail a couple of my books that people purchased. And one of them was going to Wasilla, Alaska today. I actually had to look at the thing again because it was more expensive than usual. And I was like, what? Oh, it's going to Alaska. And then I was like, wait, is Wasilla in Arkansas or Alaska? Sorry. Anyway, so on my mind, and hi to Barb in Wasilla, who's got a book coming.
Wait, that's my mom's name.
Barb. Her last name is Smith. I think did your mom buy my book?
I don't know. I don't want to share her address. Can you type in the chat the address?
Yes, let me get it. So there's that.
That's fucking wild.
Why? Yeah, so wild.
My mom is an art teacher, or a retired art teacher. So if she didn't buy it, then someone else did. but it's probably a different Barb Smith. But if she did, that would be wild. Hold on. Fold the fucking phone. Hold on. Stop. I have to look up that. Hold on a sec. She does have a UPS box. My mom bought your book. That's my mom's fucking address. My mom bought your
And I mailed it today. And wow, that's hilarious.
Stop. Oh my gosh. Wait, what's your
It's Tarot for Creative Spirits. I need to send you a copy. It's got journaling prompts for every card in the tarot and creative prompts, and it's illustrated.
Oh, that's totally my mom's vibe.
And there's a lot of tarot spreads in the back, but it's basically to help you get to know the cards through your own personal experience while also getting some really rich self-inquiry. And obviously it's magical, as we can tell from this whole conversation. But I often find that when you pull a card for the day and go to that prompt, and it will usually like give you just what you need. Yeah, I need to send you one. The other thing is that I wanted to say is that my father and I watched Northern Exposure gleefully when I was younger, when that was coming out. And that was obviously set in a small town in Alaska with a doctor who'd come from New York City, living in this small town. And in the opening, there's like a moose walking down the main street.
It's the saddest moose. Just so you know, Alaskans like look at that. First off, not to burst your bubble, it was filmed in Canada. Nothing is ever really filmed in Alaska because it's too expensive. But I love that I love that you enjoyed that. I was just the generation to miss it or to like not get the humor. And also back to the homestead, we didn't really have TV in our house. So maybe I need to go back and watch the episodes. Is there an episode that stands out to you about Northern Exposure?
It's been a while, but I'm kind of tempted to go back as well. And this is where Aiden from Sex and the City first started. He was a DJ at the radio station, the hippie guy, little bit of dude energy from Big Lebowski. He's like the hot man on the show. Anyway, in terms of the paranormal, I just love that content. I've always been interested in like mysterious things. And when I was young, it was ghost stories or books with a ghost in it, like Wait Till Helen Comes.
Oh, I remember that.
And then I think I just didn't think about it too much for a while. But when I got back into tarot, I just let everything start connecting. And now there's like more content around it on streaming services. But there's a show on HBO, I think, called The Alaska Triangle. It's kind of a reference to the Bermuda Triangle. It's sort of hilarious because like when they show you the Alaska Triangle, it's pretty much all of Alaska. But it has a lot to do with people's mysteriously disappearing, which of course can happen just in the wilderness because there's so many hazards and no one you can call and everything is so remote. Also, Bigfoot encounters, UFO sightings. And I think there's an episode about a ruined town that maybe had a fishery and a cannery that everyone fled suddenly because of some mysterious thing.
Ooh.
And there's another show called Aliens in Alaska. And both of them, as far as these kinds of shows go, are pretty well produced. I'm not saying they're Emmy winning, but pretty good quality for the genre. So there's not a lot of history I can share with you. I'm not an expert. I am a entertained spectator, but I think it also fits with just that majesty of Alaska. I do want to know, have you ever had any like interesting, strange, unexplainable experiences? We'll start with that.
I haven't, although legend has it that my paternal grandma was psychic. She died before I was born. And would know people were calling before they called. And something that she said to my dad that my dad passed to me, and this is all secondhand. Apparently, my grandma said, if you don't want to engage with a spirit, ask it to go away. Tell it to go away. Say, I want nothing to do with you. Please go away. And so I was raised around acknowledging that that could happen, but that just ask it to go away. And so I never really had that experience, but I also felt like if I did, had been told what to do. But I am going to ask the next time I go up, I am going to ask my extended family if they have ever had any paranormal experiences, because my dad is a bush pilot. And so was my uncle and my grandpa. When I went back, my partner went with me for the first time. My partner, who was raised in California, also lived in New York for 15 years, comes back and is just like, it's so rural. And I was like, Wasilla isn't really considered rural by Alaska standards. You know, we can get to a grocery store in 30 minutes. That's not rural. We can get there by car. Just her observing and seeing family dynamics helped me just have added clarity around how I show up in the world. Some of my patterns I think are normal or maybe healthy that actually maybe aren't. And also have a deeper appreciation for the people that are in my life. And I know we have talked before. Speaking of paranormal, we had our very first episode disappear about, but then we also talked last time about coming out of the broom closet. And I had a couple family members that are like, we want a tarot reading. My boundary is I don't give tarot readings if you're just going to do it to make fun of me or of tarot. But if you genuinely want a tarot reading, let's do it. So I actually got to give a tarot reading to my sister's friends, my sister, my mom, and my aunt while I was up there. And that was wild. That was just wild to be like, oh my gosh, I'm doing this.
Yeah, that's exciting when your family starts to like open up about it or get more curious about it if they're not already into it. And yeah, it's interesting. There's some kind of like existential filter that comes up when you bring someone you know in your current life to a place. Like even when you bring a friend into your new house and they haven't been there before, and you're kind of like, oh, how do I look at this through new, fresh eyes, the way that my friend might be?
Yes.
Same with going to your home, your place of origin, even more so, especially when you have family members around. So I'm curious if there's anything you want to share about what you noticed.
Well, my partner noticed more so.
Okay.
I think connecting this to like IFS because I'm a huge IFS nerd.
And that is
I think
internal family systems.
internal family systems. Yes.
And I failed to mention, just to remind folks, tell us about your work really quick and where you're coming from. My bad. I'm treating you like you're just like always here.
Here. I love it. Just to dive in. Well, since we last met, I'm officially an IFS-certified therapist,
Amazing.
which requires a next level around that. So I'm a psychotherapist, IFS-certified therapist, love working with neurodivergent, highly sensitive, queer trauma survivors. So I bring a big attachment lens, trauma-informed lens, and a parts lens to my work. And then you and I were talking about writing earlier. I'm also a copywriter. And then in the past year, as has been the story of the past, I reluctantly started offering professional tarot readings. So now I, as I joke, I'm a professional witch.
Hey, we need them.
We do. We do. Yes, that's me. So your question around what I noticed, well, no one's on time. We have Smith time. And my beloved partner is on time to everything. And in fact, is like early. So I got to notice a little bit. I'd always known that I had a little bit of time blindness, but I got to really see that in action a little bit more and see how no one can leave the house on time. And there's stages to saying goodbye. The other thing that she noticed that I took for granted is what we do in family is we like sit and visit. And she was like, I don't know, visiting. She's like, visiting, what does that mean? You know, because she'd wanted to have a plan and what we do. And I was like, oh, we're probably just going to like sit and visit. What does that mean? I think it's a Midwestern thing because I brought it up to my friend some of my friends that are from the Midwest. The South too. Yeah. You sit and talk.
Yeah.
And there probably food there, probably drink there.
Yep.
So I just saw how much that was a big part of my family dynamic is we just love to sit and talk and connect. And then also dynamics around what did I notice? I think more just, and this goes back to the parts work thing. I think when we're around family, it's really easy to go into teenage parts, young adult parts, child parts. And having someone there helps you stay in your core adult self, and interact with folks differently and interact with them as an adult because I've been away from Alaska since I was in probably for like 15 years now. And I very much joke I'm like an M&M that's like Alaska on the inside, but like Colorado on the outside. So I probably am not really super Alaskan by Alaskan standards, except until I bring people home. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. Like, watch out for the moose. There's a moose there. We saw moose on our first day. So that is something that I noticed is that having someone there was a really nice anchor, but also it made me want to think about the practices that help me stay connected to me and to adult me and core me. And in doing that, it really helped deepen my relationships with the other family members and show up as an adult, not as a teenager or as a child or even as a young adult.
Will you share a practice that feels anchoring?
I mean, I love morning pages.
Yes.
I know it's basic, but I love morning pages. And, and I love, obviously, pulling cards. I've been doing a lot of morning one card pulls of what do I need to know today? What do I need to know? What does my heart need? I'm doing that as well. What about you? Do you have anything?
Yeah, journaling is big. Pulling cards is big. Getting out for a walk with my dogs
Mhm.
is big. When I meditation is really
Mhm.
helpful and like taking breaks, going outside. Um yeah, and sometimes the quiet or alone time is really nice too, having a little pocket of that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to reading tarot for your
Yeah.
family.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that like? What happened there?
Well, I knew going up that my was going to be giving a reading to my sister's friend who I didn't know. I'd love to hear your experience about this. It's really different to read for someone that you don't know and you don't have a relationship with than someone you do have a relationship with as well. But the first experience I've had of reading tarot with a witness is what I think about it was actually reading for my aunt for her birthday, and my mom was present and a witness for that. The theme I'm seeing is it makes it so much richer because I have my perspective reading for the card, but then that third party, that witness, gets to bring in a really valuable and different perspective. And so, for example, I'm trying to respect like privacy and all of this, but what I found is that I would be reading the cards and I'd be like, here's what the cards are saying. Here's what I'm seeing. Does this resonate for you? And the person receiving the reading would be like, well, kinda, I don't know. And then the third party, sister, mom, aunt, would be like, actually, you do X, Y, Z. And so it was this because I feel like when I am reading tarot, I'm there to interpret the cards. I'm there to make meaning and help to like help them with that process. But then there's this third person there that's just like, no, I totally see this for you. And so it adds this really, really beautiful angle to it because tarot is already revealing what we don't know and what we can't see and what we might not want to look at. And then you're limited by the consciousness of the person that you're reading for. But when you have this third person who knows them, it's making it 5-dimensional in a way, is the way I see it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting to have. I like that word, a witness. That feels really sweet and juicy. I've done a lot of readings in public, like maybe where I have a little table at an event and people come and sit down. And so often they're like, can my friend sit with me? Or two people approach and they're like, do you want to do it together? And
Mhm.
so that'll happen from time to time. And just for what it's worth, if anyone out there is doing this kind of thing or thinking about this kind of thing, my approach is always to ask the person who's getting the reading,
Mhm.
do you want them there or do you want privacy? It's interesting when there's a couple and sometimes they want to read together, but sometimes one of the partners wants to have privacy. And sometimes something from the relationship will come up in the reading. But there's like some extra validation, like you're
Mhm.
saying, and you get a second response to what
Mhm.
you're offering through the cards. So the friend starts nodding or smiling or kind of laughing, or there's, elbowing the querent, and they'll bring, sometimes they'll bring in something that enhances it. And then I think for the person watching the reading, sometimes for the witness, so that person is the one who wants to go second because they're a little bit tentative.
Mhm.
So watching the reading take place and seeing how it's conducted and what it's going to be like and how it's not really that scary really gets some excitement going for them to have their cards
Mhm.
read. And then, of course, there's this renewed, I feel like connections of intimacy are either
Yes.
energized or enhanced through the reading
Mhm.
because the reading's always going to get into the stuff of life that's like really
Mhm.
important and really holding a lot of weight and meaning for people. And so it gets them talking about that thing, which they may, of course, talk about plenty, but they might not talk about it that
Mhm.
much. And so and the querent gets this reminder that their friend sees them and knows them and
Mhm.
is both
Mhm.
on their team, but also there to keep them straight a little bit sometimes or help them see through the blind spots. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
fun.
So it's kind of like tarot gets to call bullshit. And like you've had readings like that where you like look at a card and you're like, "Oh, okay, how am I gonna communicate this?" And so you communicate it very softly and gently or directly. And then that third person, that witness, gets to be like, yeah, remember when XYZ? I really unintentionally have pulled a lot on my training around offering like therapy groups when I'm doing these. The word that keeps in mind is like tarot witnessing, like tarot reading, tarot witnessing, because I just can't help but want to nourish those threads and nourish what they're observing, still keeping it focusing on the querent, but also, you as the tarot reader, depending if you're reading for them or not, you're not going to be continuing to support them with the integration. So that's another beautiful aspect of having a witness to it is them being able, almost helping to be a little bit of accountability around integrating it too.
Yeah, and because the person saw every card flop over, the
Mhm.
querent doesn't have to explain the reading first because the other person just experienced it. And so you already have
Yeah.
that frame of reference. And there will often be this thing too where this like, we were just talking about blah, 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 blah. So they get that magical synchronistic, yeah, the universe hears you and it's talking back. And that was an important thing that you were talking about. And, because maybe they're talking about what happened with their therapist or whatever. And then the cards will come underline that. And I think to your point about groups, therapeutically, being in a therapy group, for me, it was an interpersonal processing group of men and women with a
Mhm.
male and a female therapist. I did that for 3 years. And that really did so
Mhm.
much for me. So much for me. It's really powerful because you'll find people in the group who become a kind of archetype for someone else
Mhm.
in your life that you have baggage with. And
Mhm.
so you can work out some of that friction. It's like uncomfortable and it's scary and it takes like a long time to slowly move through that. But you have this stand in to work it out with who isn't in your life. I mean, they're in your life once a week for an hour, but you can't text them, you can't hang out, you don't owe them anything. So that's really beautiful work. And partly why, I've created the Creative Magic Collective is so everything multiplies when you do it in community.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and groups are just a microcosm of the outer world. And so whatever comes up in groups is coming up in your outside life. And that's how certain therapists work. That's how I really lean a lot on a therapist. If I'm feeling a certain way towards a client, I don't personalize that. I'm like, oh, if I'm feeling this way towards them, I wonder if other people feel that way towards them. And how can I bring that in? How can I better understand that? How can I bring that into the work in a way that's helpful for the client? Because therapy is a relationship, group therapy is a relationship. I also want to name, I think the most effective groups, and maybe people might fight me on this, I think the most effective groups have two facilitators because there is so much to spot and track, right? So much to spot and track, which is why when I think of group tarot reading, I'm like, how do you attune to everything? How do you attune to the individual versus the vibe of the group? I'm obviously feeling out this model, but that's what's different from what we're describing with having a witness. I'm attuning to the querent, not to that witness. I mean, I'm picking up the vibe, but I'm really attuning to the person. But when you're doing a group tarot reading, what are you attuned to? Have you done group tarot readings before? Like for an actual group?
Yeah, I remember a party that a friend held and they invited me to read. And instead of ending up at a little table, we just did like a big table and whoever wanted to be there could sit. So maybe it was 6 to 8 people around a table. And I think I did like 1 or 2 cards for everyone. And so some people knew each other in different kinds of ways. And it was also, there were other people at the party doing other things. So it was a little challenging to go super deep, but within the group, you're waiting your turn. But when it's your turn to get a reading, most of the other people are tuned into you and what you're getting. And then you start to see connections between people arise that maybe they were not aware of, or there's a new basis for conversation, or just a connection that wasn't present before, whether it's from some past experience or being an only child, for example, or being a twin, for example. And then there's also this moment because in a reading, the querent is going to share something. So then there's this spirit of a little bit of vulnerability that starts to get cultivated. And it's not going to go super deep in a setting like that. But in an enclosed therapy group, it certainly can. And so I'm coming back to this word visiting. Every person at the table is getting a visitation from the tarot. And then everyone's in this visiting space because they're catching on to each other or tuning into some part of life that hasn't been discussed. But it just creates this sort of magical energy that's also related to real life and what you care about, which many group settings we can be a part of are just more superficial.
I love that. I agree. I mean, tarot deepens.
Yes.
It deepens. And I noticed that when I was reading for my family, that it opened the door for people to say things. When you were talking about vulnerability, it opened the door for people to say things in a way that was vulnerable, but not confrontational.
Yeah.
And that is one pattern I noticed in my family. We're very non-confrontational.
Same in mine. We do lots of things, but we don't deal with the issues. Yep.
Yeah. That was very non-confrontational and conflict avoidant, which reasons why, very valid reasons why around that. So the tarot was such a beautiful invitation for things to be said. The positive I want to give to non-confrontational is consent-based. You really, really, really need invitation. Speaking of visitations, you need invitations to bring things up. And tarot is that invitation. It is an invitation to be like, how do you see it? Right? What's your perspective on this? But if you're not invited to do it, then it feels like you're confronting them. I notice just doing so many readings in a row, a couple different themes. One of them is a lot of people know what they need and they know what's right. And sometimes the readings were almost a little anticlimactic because they were just a confirmation. Sometimes I go into tarot and I am like, reveal something mind blowing to me. I'm in this season of transition and I keep pulling the moon and I'm so annoyed. I'm just like, no, give me something else. But that's the beauty of tarot, is it can be a confirmation. Also, the themes that I saw with people really wanting things to be simple and then to being so much more complex than they are. And I really just want this to be a black and white decision. I really just want to know. And it's like, no, this is so much more complex. So sometimes you leave a tarot reading feeling more open and more uncomfortable with less clarity because you're like, oh, I've just been simplifying this as well. And then there are the tarot readings, which I think is what people think of, where they are kind of blown open and they are told things that really get to the core. And this is something I'd be curious to hear about this for you too. This is something I've just honed as a therapist. I don't know if all tarot readers are like that, but having been a therapist for a long time now, I can pull a tarot card and get an intuitive feeling and be like, oh, like this is the core of it. And I need to be really gentle around this. Does this ever happen for you? Where you're like, oh, this is the core of this.
Yeah, I think it comes when a pairing of cards. Usually I'll kind of do a reading in stages, which is probably common, where we're looking at this thing and there'll be 2 or 3 cards for that. And then there will be like somewhere in one of those sections, there's a pairing that really feels powerful or more illuminated than the other cards. And yeah, I did a reading the other day and lots of things were like making sense and seemed to be feeling helpful. And then the course of that conversation brought this person to a question that had been with them for a while, something like people had been recommending they do, that they create because of the work that they'd been doing. And I think they'd brushed it aside mostly because they weren't that kind of creator or for whatever reason. But the 2 cards that came up were Judgment and The Empress. And normally I'd try to avoid questions where it's like, should I do this thing? Yeah. There's not a yes or no card. And it's also like, do you want to do the thing? But when Judgment shows up as this spiritual bullhorn with the Empress about creativity, then I'm like, well, Spirit thinks you should. And then there was this really beautiful emotional moment for this person because I think there was just an untended area, this lingering thing in the background that was finally getting some light and some conversation and some support and encouragement. And so that's like kind of one way I experience it, where it seems like the cards in a cluster compared to what else is going on speak more loudly.
I believe that the message finds its way to you. You can't miss anything in tarot. And that's helped me as a reader for other people, but also just reading my own cards. It's like, I'm not going to miss anything. Spirit, if you believe that, will find a way to let you know. It will keep sending the same card or it will send it in different ways. You can't miss it.
I suppose you can put your blinders on in such a way that you really try to shut things out like truly. But if that's the case, you're not getting a tarot reading. Coming to tarot reading, you are curious and you want to know.
Okay, question for you. This is related to group tarot reading. If folks are listening now and they're like, I want to read with friends, or I want to have a group tarot experience, what would you invite folks to do?
Yeah, I would invite you to get creative with it and to feel into the energy of the group. If there are some people in the group who are really new to each other, but some people who have like a deeper relationship, that creates a little bit of unevenness, let's say. So you could just put your deck in a basket, let's say, and people draw one when they come into the space. If there's something else going on, like it's not just about tarot, it's an invitation to ask other people what card they got or what they think it means, or just look at the card together. Or you can have more of like a sit down and everyone pulls a card and shares a little bit about it, what they think it means. And if you're more of the experienced tarot reader in the room, you can offer something. Or I've done some bachelorette parties too, where it's a small group and they rented an Airbnb and they just all hang out while each of them gets a reading and listen, because they are close. And so if you're, wanting to practice or feeling like most of your friends are into tarot or tarot curious and you want to offer this exploration together, then you can just make it one-to-one reading, but in the group. Yeah. And then there's probably a lot of other ways to do it that would create connection across people. I love your word invitation. Let there be an appropriate, attuned invitation for the group where they can get pulled a little more out of their shell without feeling too exposed.
So offering that invitation, but also allowing people to choose the level of vulnerability that feels right for them.
Yeah. And also, of course, giving them zero trouble if they don't want to participate and they just want to watch. Everyone's on their own journey, especially if you've come out of a more extreme religious ideology, then there's a lot of like reluctance around what tarot means or what it can do, and just this feeling that it's wrong or something. And so someone like that may be on a different timeline with it. So we just want to really respect that.
I can see your thoughtfulness and how you facilitate and the creative way that you think about groups and facilitate groups in that way. And one thing you shared got me thinking, I am on a kick learning about play personalities. Have you ever heard about this?
Oh, that's fun.
It's been really healing for me it's from the book. Well, I first learned about it from the book, Feel Good Productivity. The first chapter was all about play and the play personalities. And it was really revolutionary for me because I'm not someone that really seeks out fun. I don't drink. I don't really use substances. And so I'm like, well, what do I do for fun? Like I like read tarot and read books. And I talk to my plants. And actually, there are different types of play personalities. And one of them is a director. And it is fun for you to organize events, to facilitate groups. And you smiled just now. Do you feel seen?
I feel very seen. Yeah, when you have your sun, moon, and Mars in Capricorn and your Saturn is in Virgo, you're going to like be a little bit of a director sometimes. I don't like to be the stage person necessarily, but I certainly don't mind orchestrating, but I do have this like, I'm so bossy, or I try not to be too bossy about it.
Bossy, if you're right. I mean,
right. It's like when you're in a highly sensitive person who's paying attention to what's going on. Is it bossy or just helpful?
yeah. Is it bossy or am I just right? I'm not being bossy. I just know what's best. Wait, and you said you're a sun, moon, and what's your astrology? Mars and Capricorn. What's your rising?
Taurus.
Taurus. Okay.
It's real earthy over here.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I also have a play personality we're going to go down this tangent.
Yeah.
It's going to be healing for us. I will tell you the 8 different play personalities.
Okay.
There's the collector, the competitor, the explorer, the creator, the storyteller, the joker, the director. And I can't say this word right. It's kinesthetic. And so I am the collector because when I moved recently, I had over a carload of plants. And I've been using this self-care app and been recording like the small joys of my day. I get an unreasonable amount of joy taking care of my plants and seeing how they're growing and seeing how their leaves are doing and like talking to them. I love repotting my plants. I love clipping off their little babies and then rooting them and seeing how they're rooting. And then actually, my other play personality is the director. I love hosting events. And I actually have one coming up that's like yoga and chill. I did a book swap this summer for therapists and space holders. And I love it. I love writing the event description for it. I love filling out the time. I love seeing the registration rolled in. I love being the host when people come. And it needs to be free. These need to be free because otherwise it becomes work and I want it to be play, you know?
Mhm.
And then, of course, my other play personality is the storyteller. I did theater a lot as a kid. I did Spanish theater actually in college. So those are my three main types. And I just feel so seen in them because I'm like, oh, I'm doing something fun for me right now. And that's okay. Do you have a sense of which you are? I can read them again if you'd like.
I feel like I connected with almost all of them, except maybe for the competitor. I'm not an athlete competitor. I'm not like a talent competitor. But if we're playing like a board game or something, we all love winning. And I collect stuff from nature. Like I found this feather, I found this seed pod, I found this bone. And
Yes.
all of those things are fun. You know, I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller. Like,
Yes.
I haven't read the book and you know more about it, but just as you read them, I feel like, what if we are giving ourselves doses of those kinds of fun a lot? Now I'm thinking of like a little habit tracker where it's like, oh, I had some storytelling fun today, or I had some
Mhm.
collecting fun today.
And I think anyone who loves tarot is the storyteller play personality because there is an infinite amount of stories that are being shared through tarot. I love sometimes just like pulling out cards and as if they're like a sequence. I got a little storyteller play the other day. I like pulled out cards and it was like, I think it was the Knight of Pentacles and then there was a Queen of Cups in there. And I was just like telling a story from it.
That was one of the things that drew me to tarot really quickly as someone who wanted to be a writer since she was young and did an MFA in writing and struggled in my MFA and then found tarot later. I was like, oh, this is really helpful. Like it is a storytelling technology. So if we're storytellers by trade or passion, it's going to help you.
Oh my gosh. I was just thinking, who needs AI too?
Thank
I have lots of thoughts around that. We can save
Let's
that
do
for a
an
future
episode on
topic.
that.
Speaking of collecting, I've been collecting articles that have been helping me form opinions around it. I did the play personalities with my family too, and it was fun to spot other people's play personalities. But I had to just kind of playfully tease you a little bit because you're like, everyone likes to win, right? Said the Capricorn stellium. Because I'm like, I mean, I don't. I will go to board games and I have to clarify. I'm like, is this a board game where we're going to be serious about doing it, or is it just having fun? We could probably not do board games together because because you'd be like, all right, it's your turn. It's your turn. Go.
Well, I try not to be like, I don't think, I could be wrong. We could ask my partner or other people, but I don't think I get so hardcore in the game that like that's my main objective. I'm just saying it's fun when you win. It is fun. Like tell me that's not fun. You don't have fun when you win, have I?
I love
Fun
being
feels
right.
fun.
I
That's a
love being
good
right.
one.
I like betting, actually. I don't gamble, but if my partner's like, oh, I can't find it, I'm like, if I can, will you? So I guess I kind of like being right. I don't like winning, but my partner is really good at board games. So the reason I know that she loves me is she never lets me win because so then when I do win, it's like earned, you know, earned. My Mars is in Cancer. I'm like,
oh yeah. So it's like you're not aggressive with wins, but we all have a Mars placement. You know what I mean?
yeah, I like to win through comfort, I guess.
Knowledge, like your Gemini, like I know what's up.
Yeah, it's more like a win, like being right. Like with this friend, I'm just like, by September 9th, something will come in. Like, I am so confident in it, you know? And if not, I'll buy you a copy. That's a win-win, right? Something good happens for her where she gets a copy.
We all win. We're all gonna win.
We're all winners. I'm glad we went down this avenue of play personalities.
It felt playful for me.
It did. Well, trust the Gemini to bring that and bring it to your partner. Let's find out what your partner's play personalities are. It's a good conversation, but this concept of play personalities also relates to this theme of invitations, intimacy, deepening connection. And I don't think we give enough credit to how play can deepen our connections with others. And play is also vulnerable. I'm only going to just go with the storyteller one because that's what I'm most familiar with. But it's vulnerable to share something.
It requires you to surrender and be in the moment and take down some of those control faculties, because play is opening the field of we're being more spontaneous, and it is vulnerable, which is, I think, another reason why we do less of it than perhaps we used to. But
well, this was one of the culture things with my family in Alaska is we roast each other. Okay, I'll share this. This is really fun. You know, Cards Against Humanity?
yes.
Okay, so we have this game that was created. Speaking of play, oh my gosh, who would have known we were to go through this today? I'm so glad we did. We have this game called What's Paul's Problem, which is my dad's name. So basically, we go around in a circle, and whoever the person is, yeah, what's their problem?
What's the catalyst for the game?
What's the catalyst? I mean, it's a way to roast people and to be funny, and it's all anonymous. So the way you win, I actually won most of them. I'm going to brag about that.
Did you enjoy it?
Well, okay, so I did because I was right. Part of this game is like I'm like, what is going to make them laugh? But what is like the core and funny? And this is a skill I have to use all the time as a therapist and as a tarot reader of just like, okay, how can I approach this in a way that they're going to feel like they're in on it with me and I'm not making fun of them. So my cousin is engaged and getting married. And so one of my aunts, her problem is that her son's fiance is smarter than her. And so that was an example of that's her problem. And so it's like digging at her or something like that. So if it was my turn, they'd be like, what's Ariana's problem? And everyone gets a piece of paper and they anonymously write down like, what's my problem? And then they hand it out to me and then I read them and then I pick the one that is my problem, that is actually my problem.
Okay, it's interesting because it's like confrontational, but there's people showed up for the invitation. They said yes.
It's about a way of pointing out what everyone sees, but no one's going to say. So one of my cousins has 5 kids. And so his problem, birth control, right? And he laughed around that. It's a way to give a dig, like in a loving way.
It's like a spin on Cards Against Humanity.
It is. It's basically, yeah.
Cool. Well, I think this is a fun place to start to wind down. You mentioned a tarot spread.
Yeah. You'd spread around like how to incorporate more play.
That's good. Let's do that. Do you feel like it's a good first one to just be, where can I play more?
Yeah. Okay.
How can I play more?
Oh, we're going to draw for ourselves then.
I can draw for you. We can do it like Paul's problems, and I just draw for you and you can draw for me.
Okay, where does Cecily need more play? I love this. Oh, this is fun. All right, I'll pull for you now. What deck are you using?
The Liberation Tarot.
Oh,
why?
Yes, the 9 of Cups flew out for you.
That's interesting. Okay, I want to hear your read on that.
It feels like thinking even more expansively about what play looks like for you and letting yourself dream. And can dreaming be play for you? Can wishing be play for you? Does that resonate at all?
I think so. But I pulled this card from the Lucille Clifton. There's a Lucille Clifton poetry deck. And last night I got the card that said, "Wake up, girl, you dreamin'." Like, oh, am I in a kind of illusion?
Oh, so maybe it's like stop dreaming and go and do the thing. Like, how would you play next? Like, what was one of your dreams?
I think it's this struggle to believe in my ideas,
Mm,
and I can like work through them and I finish things, but there's always some pain, which I think is
mm,
normal. But in the middle, it's like, what if no one wants this? It feels like no one wants this.
mm,
Maybe I should like stop. That card made me feel like, oh, maybe I am over dreaming. But I feel like sometimes that person in that card is like, they have a lot of belief. They're like, look at all my cups.
mhm. It could also be like pick a cup, which is a little bit more Seven of Cups vibes, but this is what the card, I have light series. I'm going more off this vibe of like, it's a very joyful card, lots of options.
I like that. I've been pulling Seven of Cups lately too. But that one feels like it takes Seven of Cups and turns it into a little more of like Fool energy.
Mm. The other way I would look at this, because if you've been getting Seven of Cups, and I think, oh, is your reading, is your message really about the Eight of Cups right now? Like that journey from seven to nine. Like, yes, it's about the Nine of Cups, but in order to get to that Nine of Cups, is there some Eight of Cups energy? Is there some cups you're having to leave behind?
Yeah, I think there's been some shadow work I need to get into, but I'm not. And I wonder if you have a good recommendation for that. I feel like parts work is shadow work too.
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, and interestingly, the shadow is your card.
What? Oh, what does that correlate to?
That is the devil.
Oh,
Yeah, so this feels like parts work. This one
yeah.
is a figure that's tethered to its double looking in a mirror. And so I don't even know that it's necessarily like, have fun, Ariana, doing more shadow work. But I feel like now you have this IFS piece, you feel more trained to use in your practice. And also as a Gemini and just who you are and having read up on play personalities, that you can bring that playfulness into shadow work or IFS work.
Mhm.
I probably need to just book a session with you.
Yeah. Speaking of IFS, I definitely have a part that's like the fun police. I've had to work a lot with a part that is like, if you have too much fun, you'll never stop having fun.
Oh.
I think this relates a little bit to my neurodivergence and also time and also my human design. Like once I'm in something, I want to just be in that. I just want to be immersed in that. And I have this part that's like, nope, you can't have too much fun. Otherwise, you won't want to go back to work.
Yeah.
And so I think it's an invitation to look at those shadow elements that have maybe some old beliefs around fun that aren't accurate anymore.
I imagine too that growing up on a homestead or just having ancestors who had to really create their own subsistence, particularly in Alaska, really deal with some challenging things in order to make that happen. That too much fun was dangerous. I know.
I think it also connects to more personally, we've talked about this in the past of just, I never really had the quote unquote problem with alcohol, but I definitely didn't make the best choices when I was on it. Should we pull a card for the listeners for the group? I'll pull another one for listeners for the group. How can they bring in more play? Oh, I got 10 of Pentacles. What did you get?
I got the Student of Blades or Page of
Ooh.
Swords.
I always think of the Page of Swords as like the student too.
Go take your play personality test.
Yeah, yeah. I will make sure to send that. There is an actual quiz that you can do around it. Like, go be curious around this. I love the interpretation of Page of Swords as you know more than you think you know. and that there's value in being a novice. And I think that's such a heart of play is you can't really be an expert at play. It's like antithetical. And then I'm feeling a little stumped around the Ten of Pentacles in the situation. When I see the Ten of Pentacles, I think about legacies and an invitation to think about lineage around what did play mean for you as a kid? How did your parents play? How did your siblings play? And is there something there to notice? Do you have any take on either of these cards?
Yeah, I like that. I would add to Ten of Pentacles. My playful response is like to play what's Paul's problem with your with me.
If they could survive it.
And then playing with the people around you, playing with the people in your network. Ten of Pentacles is one of those where I think it can be a family lineage, but it can also be your intergenerational friendships, playing with your friends' kids if you don't have your own kids, or your nieces and nephews, but also play your grandmother's favorite board game with her if she's around. Gather the people who are already here and play with them.
I have a really sweet story about that before we sign off. I used to, speaking of being the director, play personality, I used to host big card game meetups and play cards. And my grandma was a card shark. And so one time before the event, the friend that I was hosting the event with, we made a little altar and we picked a card that represented our grandmas. This is very Ten of Pentacles. To be like, yes, we're playing cards for fun, but we're playing cards to honor grandmas. And we're going to have fun for our grandmas. And this is the way that their grandma had fun. And the friend's grandma was more of a nurturer. And my grandma, she was so smart. So you can bring in an altar or a ritual to your play too, as well. Yeah. We covered a lot of fun stuff today.
We did. We did. Thank you. Thank you. I want to, before we sign off, just remind folks that you can join my newsletter and you can join Ariana's wonderful newsletter as well. And you can also get my book, which we talked about in this episode, which is going to help you deepen your tarot practice and your creative practice and your relationship with yourself. And Ariana, you have some invitations open for people. What would you like to share?
Yeah. Well, also next time we meet, I'm going to text my mom after this and find out the story behind Barb and your book. What do I want folks to know about? I just opened up sounding board sessions, which are a blend of witchy vibes and strategy when it comes to the one thing that's been keeping you up at night around your business, your copy, your words, your message. And it was really modeled by being in groups with people and the power of having that undivided, devoted attention to something that you have been thinking about for like years or weeks or all that time. So that's something I opened up today, but I'm sure it'll be open whenever you release this too.
But all the links for many of these things we discussed will be in the show notes. And we so appreciate everyone listening. If you could share this episode with someone who might enjoy it or needs a little play or is developing their tarot practice or is also obsessed with Alaska, please share it, pass it along. And Ariana, thank you so much for coming back. I am looking forward to next time.
Yeah. Thanks so much. Talk soon.
Bye, everyone.